24 days of Saab! A Christmas journey!
Yes, it's true, it does belch a little smoke when it first starts up and for the first few minutes, but once the engine warms up, you don't see any smoke at all. Of course, that's just the nature of a two-cycle engine, quite a rarity in the US. And I just love driving it. As a matter of fact, I've had probably 80 cars in my lifetime to this point, and I have to say, of all the ones I've owned, this little car is just the most fun to drive. The steering is rack and pinion, and it's very light because the whole car only weighs 1,900 pounds, just about the same as my MGA Roadster, amazingly. So it doesn't need power steering, and there's just absolutely no slop in the steering. Turn the wheel a half an inch, and you're heading off the road, that's for sure. This Saab Model 96 has a 4-speed transmission right on the steering column, and really, if you think about it, where else would you want the gear shift to be? It's just where you only have to move your hand about 2 inches in order to access it. And one thing that's really cool about this car that's fairly unique is it has a freewheeling transmission. And what that means is anytime you take your foot off the gas, the engine just comes to idle because the engine and drivetrain are automatically disconnected from each other. So one big advantage of the freewheeling transmission is that once you start off, you never have to use the clutch again. Just as I'm doing now. All you have to do is let your foot off on the gas and just shift it to the next gear because the engine is already disconnected from the transmission. And you can do this at virtually any speed. You could shift it into first gear without the clutch when you're only going like 1 mile an hour. And you could also shift it into first gear at 60 or 70 miles an hour, and it would have absolutely no detrimental effect to the transmission because everything's disconnected until the engine speed gets up to the driven wheel speed. It's a small engine in this car. It's just an 848 cc's, about half the size of a Volkswagen engine. And it's somewhat unique in that it's a 3-cylinder, 2-cycle engine. It only develops 40 horsepower, but it really puts out quite a wallop for the size of the engine. And the only thing is, it's not a car to be driven leisurely. You got to drive this car like you're mad at it at all times. As a matter of fact, if you don't take the engine right up to its maximum speed in every gear, then it's not going to be going fast enough to get any sort of acceleration out of the next gear. There is no tachometer on here, so I have no way of knowing exactly how fast the engine is turning over. But it really doesn't matter, because with only 7 moving parts in the engine itself, there's no valve train, there's really nothing to be damaged by overspeeding the engine. In fact, just the inherent nature of the 2-cycle engine design creates its own limits in maximum RPMs, because when you get to a certain spot, the engine just quits developing further power and lets you know it's time to go to the next gear. You just have to drive this car like you're mad at it at all times. It just keeps screaming, beat me, beat me. And to get any decent performance out of it, that's exactly what has to be done. An experienced driver of this car soon learns exactly what speed this engine is best at in each gear. So for example, first gear is good for 20 miles an hour. Second gear will go up to 31 miles an hour. Third gear, 49 miles an hour. And fourth gear, well, the sky's the limit. That is, up to the 70 or 75 miles an hour that this car is capable and comfortable of cruising at. Sure, it'll go a little faster, but I keep the speed down to about 70, and it's quite happy at that. It will drive at that speed all day long without protesting, and just as smooth as a sewing machine. The engine itself is designed to be virtually bulletproof. The crankshaft uses ball bearing main bearings, just like the now $1 million plus Porsche 356 Carrera engine. And it's just not going to break. It just loves to rev and rev and rev and keep running. I just love the minimalist engineering of this car. There's nothing on here that isn't needed for safe, reliable, and responsive driving. For example, the fenders all come off with just a handful of bolts. You can take off the entire front grille section with just 4 bolts. That includes the headlights and the turn signals. The fact that this car requires such careful attention to the RPMs, I think is one of the things that appeals to me, along with its just exquisite handling with its rack and pinion steering. Because as I mentioned, you just have to drive this thing right to its limits in every gear to get any decent performance out of it. And I like that. I like knowing that the performance of this car is up to me and my skill as a driver. I mean, think about it. If you had a new Corvette or a new Porsche, you could take off and floorboard the thing in first gear, and you're going to be exceeding any lawful speed limit. Then what do? You got 5 or 6 more gears to go through, but no place to take them. And this little car, you just get to drive it like you're racing it at all times. And it gives me a thrill. No, you're not going to win any stoplight derbies with this car. You're not going to leave a trail of burning rubber when you take off. But what you are going to do is just get an incredible amount of satisfaction knowing that you're capable of getting the absolute best out of this car. And in fact, Eric Carlson, a famous rally car driver from the 60s, actually won the Monte Carlo rally 3 times overall with a car just like this. Carlson was such a daredevil with this car, he earned the nickname On the Roof Carlson, because it seemed inevitable. Almost every race he would wind up taking a corner a little bit too fast, wind up rolling this car. It would wind up on its roof. He and his navigator would get out, roll the thing back over on its four wheels, hop in and take off, and the car would barely be damaged. Virtually any other car that suffered that same fate would be out of the race. Don't think you can just go out and buy one of these cars, though, at a whim. Even though Saab made over 500,000 of the Saab Model 96s, only a handful seems to have remained. And I promise you, if you were to go on eBay today and put this model, Saab 96, in the search, there's like a 99% chance not a single one will be for sale. Sure, there's a few Saabs still left out there, and generally they pass hands quietly amongst other Saab enthusiasts. I was fortunate to find this car just a couple of hours from my home in the little town of Belton, Texas. I had read an article about Saabs in some magazine, and I got to thinking, gee, that would really be a neat car to have. And I remembered a college friend of mine owned one of these things, and we used to take it out in the fields and just blast around. The front-wheel drive at that time was quite unusual and rare in this country. So I started looking, and as I suggested, there wasn't a single Saab of this vintage for sale on eBay. Not a single one for sale on Hemmings Motorsports. But I was persistent. I kept looking, and lo and behold, I turned up a Saab enthusiast website, and they had a classified section there. As luck would have it, the seller of this car had just posted the listing the day before. I got right on the phone, called him up, told him to consider it sold, and that I was coming up the next day with a trailer to pick it up. So next day, sure enough, I loaded up my trailer and headed up to Belton, and here was this little car sitting all forlorn. It had been being driven somewhat regularly, but it definitely needed attention. When I got up to Belton, the seller told me, gee, it's a good thing you came up today, because since I posted the ad yesterday, I've had like 8 other people have called me saying they definitely want to buy the car. But I told them no, I needed to hold it until you arrived today to make sure that you wanted to buy it. So that was all the encouragement I needed. It was already a done deal anyway as far as I was concerned. We loaded up the car and brought it back home. And initially this car just wouldn't run worth a hoot. It just had one problem after another. They all turned out to be minor issues, but it literally took me the better part of 9 months to finally whip this car into submission to the point where now I feel like it's just incredibly reliable. I'd have no qualms about hopping in this car and taking off to Las Vegas tomorrow, feeling comfortable that it would get me there in one piece and with a big smile on my face. Several of my friends have asked me, gee, when are you going to start restoring it? Because they know that I do have several restored cars in my collection. But the first time I took a look at this, in that dusty blue color, which seemed to be the signature Saab color, I just told myself, you know, this is pretty much all original. This car has character, it's got stories to tell, and I don't see that anything good would be served by putting a shiny coat of paint on it. So I made a pact with myself that I was going to see just how little money I could spend on this car and still enjoy it. Well, I must admit, as with all my cars, I've already spent a good hunk of money on this car, but I am committed to leaving the exterior exactly the way it is. Every little bump and crease in the body just tells a story about this car's history, and I don't feel like it's my role to alter that. It's a very, very solid car. There's no rust underneath. Any rust that there is, for the most part, is just surface rust. This car has many features that weren't commonplace in American cars in the mid-60s. It has full shoulder harnesses when most of the cars in the US of this vintage didn't even have seat belts. It also has a dual circuit braking system, and it's designed as sort of a unique X design, so that the left front and the right rear wheels are connected to one circuit, and then the other two wheels vice versa to the other circuit for safety. The entire underbody is sealed, even the engine, so there's no worry of water or slush getting up into the engine compartment.
"24 Days of Saab! A Christmas Journey."